The creative juices are flowing at LHWH. We're here to talk about the Silver Reed Gallery, coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at LHWH, Advertising and PR in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on the Silver Reed Art Gallery, which launched successfully here at the agency last April. And we're visiting with the W of LHWH, Steve Wilson. Steve's both a partner as well as the creative director here at the agency, and one of the exhibited artists. Thanks so much for being with us this morning, Steve.
Good morning, Ray.
Incredible opportunity all week to highlight the Silver Reed Art Gallery, to kick off the week with Paulette and Vern, to think about all the activities going on in this very creative idea. Very exciting to be able to spotlight it, and couldn't think of ending the week without getting the W and the L of LHWH to highlight what this gallery has meant to the agency. Can we talk real quick about yourself? Were you originally from the area?
No, I'm not. I moved here in 1978.
So you've been here a heck of a long time,
so
25 years.
Almost a native.
Yes.
That's one.
You'd be a local over a heck of a lot of other folks down here. What brought you to Myrtle Beach?
I met one of my partners, Vern Hurl, in Richmond. We were both living there at the time. He went to the same college that I went to, and we were working together for a little bit. And he invited me down one summer. We'd kind of kicked around the idea of maybe teaming up and doing some graphic design work. That didn't really pan out, but I loved the area. Mm-hmm. And I moved back to Richmond, Virginia, where I moved from, and came back the following summer and then decided to settle here.
Yeah.
And, got my first significant job in my career, and couldn't leave.
Absolutely, 25 years ago. And you said you went to school in Richmond.
Right.
Were you an art major? Did you study creative design or art?
I started out as an English major. Art had always been something that was a hobby for me growing up. In fact, I was originally planning to major in music. I really loved music and played in the high school band and played piano. But by my senior year in high school, I decided that I just wasn't good enough. That by that time, I'd met some musicians my same age who were much better and way more serious about it, and I thought, this is not a way to make a living. And I always had liked to write and read as well, so I started out as an English major. But my freshman year, I ended up taking more art electives than I did in my major, and decided that what had always been a hobby was something that I was pretty good at, and that's what I should pursue as a career. So I switched majors.
Would you consider yourself having a creative mind?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. As the creative director, I would consider myself absolutely non-creative, a lack of artistic talent of any sort. But when you think about folks being creative or artistic and folks not being, is there a sense that when you began studying, moving from English into really focusing on art as a potential career, utilizing art, did you think that you would be able to turn that into career out of college? When we were so young, 19, 20, 21, you thought you'd be able to turn that into career?
I really did, but also when you're that age, it doesn't really matter that much. Because for the first few years out of school, you're going to kick around and try this and try that. Right. But I'd always been interested in creative endeavors, whether it was music or writing or art. Mm-hmm. But there's creativity in everything.
Yes.
Business, what you're doing right now.
That's right. Sitting here with you. Good point. What about your first position here in '78 when you arrived in town, Steve?
Well, this was actually about 1980 by the time I had settled in. I had taken some additional college courses here at Coastal Carolina, and through one of my instructors there, I was turned on to Coast Magazine, which back then was really the only tourist publication of any size. It was a weekly publication. And they had a one-person art department, and that person had left. And so I applied and got it. Fortunately, there wasn't anyone else there that knew any more than I did, or I probably wouldn't have gotten the job. And that was my first opportunity, and I just went to school on commercial art and what it took to be in that business. And I was at Coast for 3 years, and we grew the art department from myself into a 3 or 4 person department.
Yeah.
By the time I left.
Working for Bill Darby in the early '80s and being at a publication for 3 years, it was a weekly, tourist focused, so there was still a daily newspaper, but this was a weekly tourist focused publication primarily. What was that like?
There was another publication, On the Beach.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Published by one of my other partners, Paul Himmelsbach.
Right.
It was a annual publication. It's in the hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So Coast was really the only regular magazine periodical. It was directed at locals as well as tourists, with news.
When did the company first begin? Obviously, can you talk real quick about the formation of LHWH? You talked your partner Paul Himmelsbach, Vern Hurl, who was part of the reason you came down here. You all were in a partnership prior to coming in with Andy Lesnik.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Towards the end of my time at Coast Magazine, I started doing some freelance work with Vern Hurl. Vern at that time was general manager of the Caravel Resort, and he needed brochures and newsletters, and so our friendship, of course, led to us working together on some of those projects. He doing the writing and me doing the design,
right?
And we clicked, and we thought, hey, we're not bad at this. He had majored in marketing in school, advertising, and really wanted to get back into it. And we decided, if we could find someone that could generate the business with the right contacts, we can do this. And that led us to Paul Himmelsbach, because Vern knew Paul. And there you go.
Steve, what did you think of the idea for the Silver Reed Art Gallery here at the agency?
I think it was a great idea that I can take absolutely no credit for whatsoever. But I think it's super and has led to, I think, increased camaraderie in the art department. It's really interesting to see what the other folks will do on their own with no direction and no client and no deadlines.
Right.
It's sort of intended, I think, to be a stress reliever and just to build some dialogue between us about something other than just what we are dealing with in the trenches day to day. I mean, everything that we do, of course, is on the deadline. There's always a direction either from the client or the assignment or the account executive that has to be integrated and dealt with. So, sometimes an art person can try to get too deeply into a commercial art assignment, and we always, there's kind of a saying, this is not fine art.
Right.
Well, what's on the walls is fine art, and it's really cool that we have a chance to share that with each other. And
yes.
I've enjoyed it very much.
The great thing is it's not only shared with each other, it's shared throughout the agency. You've got clients who walk through. How do you think it's impacted the agency as a whole? Can you gauge that, or even think about if you're talking to other folks within the agency, or Sherry, our press next door, or clients who come through?
I haven't heard anything from clients, but I think we're a real close-knit family throughout all the departments in the company. And I think that everyone else has enjoyed seeing unfettered creativity. Once we've made the rounds with the art people, I'm interested to see if there's any of the administrative or account people that might have some hidden talent they'd like to display.
Absolutely. And can you talk about your participation in the gallery and any of the pieces you've exhibited?
Well, I'm actually going up right now. And it was real enjoyable to dig through nearly 30 years worth of art I've accumulated to see how I've grown as an artist. It also kind of has inspired me to get back into it, because I don't make the time to create fine art on my own, and I need to get back to that. But it's been real enjoyable, like kind of walking back through my own personal art history.
This has given you a chance to be reacquainted with Steve Wilson, the artist.
Sure.
Absolutely. If you were to pick one piece from those exhibited or that are going up right now as your favorite, do you know if you could pick it? Would it be the
one behind me?
The one behind you? Yes. And
the theme of the show that I'm putting up is collages, and it spans from collages that I did in college through collages that I did on my own, within 10 years after college, and then this particular piece was done in 1985 for a show that I put together for a local restaurant, which is no longer around. And the theme of that show was collages from photography that I had taken, and that's what this is. I enjoyed photography a lot. I work with photography a lot, of course, in my job.
Mm-hmm. It's a gorgeous piece.
Thank you.
We're visiting with Steve Wilson, the artist. Steve Wilson, the W in Lesnik, Himmelsbach, Wilson, and Hurl. Steve Wilson, the creative director. And Steve Wilson, who's been reacquainted with the Silver Reed Gallery in a new way. Steve, thanks so much for being with us this week.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're at LHWH, Advertising and PR. We're still focused on the Silver Reed Art Gallery, which launched here successfully last April. And we're visiting with the L of LHWH, Andy Lesnik. Andy, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Incredible opportunity all week to highlight this very creative idea of the Silver Reed Gallery. An amazing display. Some of the artists this week, some of the other partners, obviously having Steve Wilson on a couple minutes ago, to be able to highlight to some of the account executives and even the PR side of the agency has really been a highlight. And to be able to keep this very non-commercial in focus as well, which is obviously the focus of Carolina People, has really meant a lot. So I appreciate y'all's focus level there, and thanks so much for letting us visit.
Well, thanks for the interest. We really appreciate it. It's been great for the creative guys to be honored and recognized in this way. So
yes.
Thank you very much.
I've got to give a big kudos to Paulette Best, who originally approached me months ago, not long after we launched the show, Andy.
I think it was her original idea to do the Silver Reed Gallery.
So she gets a big hats off twice today. Yes. Absolutely. Can we talk real quick about yourself, Andy? Are you originally from the area?
Greg, I grew up in New Jersey, which one of my favorite comments about New Jersey is from Susan Sarandon. She said, New Jersey, it's a great place to leave. And I subscribe to that. I came to Myrtle Beach in 1970.
Ooh, God.
I was on a cross-country odyssey with 3 friends and a dog named Ralph in a psychedelically painted VW bus.
Is that right?
And we were on our way to California, and I'd never been to Myrtle Beach, but I heard a lot about it. And I actually have never left. We came here, I stayed, my friends went on, but I made a life here.
That's amazing. So if someone were to ask the question, what brought you to Myrtle Beach, it'd be difficult to answer that other than what you just did.
It was kind of serendipitous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I had no idea I was coming to stay. I'd never been.
You'd already finished all your educational training before getting on that bus.
Right. I was a year out of college and looking for something meaningful to do.
Yeah.
I was basically a hippie, and arrived with a long beard, and I was a Yankee, and shortly after I got here in November of 1970, I met a woman named Sheila Krinsky. She was working at the Sun News at the time in their commercial printing area, and she had a dream of starting a printing company. Mm. And I had $8,000 that I had inherited from my grandfather.
Wow.
And the two of us got together, and we started a business called Shuriar Press in 1971. Had no idea what I was getting into, knew nothing about printing, knew nothing about business. I was 24. And today, Shuriar Press is the most award-winning printer in the state of South Carolina.
Congratulations, Andy. That's fantastic. Both you and Shirley. That's wonderful.
Sheila.
Sheila, forgive me. That's right. I was thinking Shuriar, forgive me. Yeah, Sheila, absolutely. Yeah. When you think about arriving at 70, having a beer, being a Northerner, 24, and then thinking about jumping into starting your own business, first, how were you received in town? What was that like? 33.
Badly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, really, I had no idea what I was getting into. So it's definitely a case of like not, if you knew then what you know now, you probably wouldn't have done it. We started our company in a 20-foot by 30-foot building. That's 600 square feet. And everybody was on top of each other. You couldn't think your own thoughts. All the equipment was there. We didn't want clients to visit us there. I actually got a long cord for the telephone, took it outside the building, and stood on Highway 17 to have conversations because I couldn't hear myself in the building. So today we have a 24,000 square foot building, so we've come a long way, but those were difficult years. Yeah.
So Sheila had the idea of setting up a printing company.
She did, yeah.
And you were just a willing recipient of that idea, or had you ever thought about that while in college?
No. It just seemed like a good idea at the time.
Right.
And
she must be a pretty intoxicating woman. I mean, yeah.
She has a lot of enthusiasm, and she loved printing. I can't say that I've ever actually loved printing. I mean, she's one of these people that loves putting ink on paper. I found that what I was interested in is the communication capabilities of the printed piece and how it can impact a business, and that kind of led me towards the marketing side of my life. But when I first started the business and I went out selling, with this beard and a company named Shuriar, which was a little difficult to say. When I was a Northerner, really people were not very welcoming. They would say, "Can I help you?" Meaning, "Can I help you out the door?"
Right. Yeah. And, Andy, how did you land your first piece of business? You must have taken Sheila out a little bit, or did she have the same background? Was she a Northerner, ended up here, or?
She was. She was from New York City.
Yeah. I don't know how you ever got any business.
I'm not sure either. No, actually, we met some people that were very helpful to us. Actually, Edgerton Burroughs, who today, of course, is the chairman of Burroughs and Chapin, was one of my first printing customers back in 1971. And there's some people like that I met then, people at Chikora and Don Leonard and other people that we still have relationships with today. Yeah.
Andy, the printing industry is considerably different than it was 32 years ago. How have some of the technological changes affected the Shuriar Press side of the building?
Printing has completely changed because the digital revolution has really impacted printing tremendously. And what happens today in printing, for the most part, is that clients give you a disc, and you either output it to film or output it direct to plate. So as somebody has put this in an interesting way to me, technology has migrated to the customer, but the ability to use the technology doesn't necessarily go with it. So Shuriar actually puts on seminars to help people learn how to prepare files for printers, how to use Photoshop, how to use Quark. We try to be an educational provider for the technology that clients have at their disposal to make the fit better. So it's a complete technological revolution.
That's fantastic. Andy, if a viewer was interested in taking one of those classes or traveling to the beach, are those held at the beach?
Yeah, we hold them in our building. We're not doing them at the moment, but if somebody were interested, they could call Trish Sports. She's our general manager. She really runs Shuriar Press for us. She's somebody that started in customer service and worked her way up through the company and now runs the place for us, does a great job, and allows me to focus most of my time on the advertising side of my life.
Great. Do you mind me asking that number for Trish?
448-1102.
Okay.
Trish Sports.
843-448-1102.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Obviously, our focus all week's been on the Silver Reed Gallery. Focus on the arts. When we think about the contribution the graphic artist has had, that surely impacted also the printing side of the business. Can you talk about how some of the artists on this side of the building have had a beneficial impact on the other half of the building, or?
Yeah, one of the things that's happened, Greg, is that I mentioned earlier the awards that Shuriar Press has won. Well, there's a trade association for the printing industries of the Carolinas. It's called PICA, Printing Industry of the Carolinas. They do an award banquet every year There are 1,600 printing companies in North and South Carolina.
Come on, 1,600?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And Shuriar this year won 51 awards, more than twice as many as any other printer in the state of South Carolina, and the second most of any printing company in both states. One company in North Carolina, one more, Classic Graphics. They're in Charlotte. They're a great company. But a lot of the awards that we win are traditionally work that's been designed by LHWH or been designed by other ad agencies that Shuriar prints for. So judges do have a high level of sensitivity to the aesthetic quality and the design capability as well as the printing. And I've noticed that a lot of what Shuriar does well is because of the design caliber of what we print.
Great, great. When did you add your advertising service to the printing company?
It really came into being in the late 1970s. I discovered, I was out trying to sell printing, that if I could package a creative product with ink on paper, that it differentiated us in the market. Printing is an industry that trends towards commoditization, which means that you can get good printing at a good price from lots of places. So the differentiation is a challenge, and packaging creative with print was the way I found to sell printing. And then I discovered that I really liked that part of the business better. And initially, most of our work was supporting real estate development. There was a lot of real estate development that kicked off in the late 1970s and ran through the 80s. And actually, the 80s were an up and down time for real estate development, and also learned a lot watching what happens in good times and bad times. But initially, a lot of our work was real estate development marketing services.
When you think about some of the other folks that have helped evolve the agency over the years, and Shuriar has really been able to complement LHWH and vice versa, amazingly.
It's a great synergy because there's a quality control element that the agency has by having that production capability next door, and there's a service edge that comes with having that production capability next door. Shuriar does not do all the printing for LHWH. They use other printers, but if they can be competitive, the quality and service edge, they will do whatever we need done for last-minute needs, which are commonplace in the advertising world.
Yes, and speaking of last-minute needs and creative service and design, we want to thank the Heart Association got donated services by Shuriar for the programs for the Radisson's grand opening and the Heart Ball last Saturday. Thank you again, Andy, you and Sheila and Shuriar. That was a big commitment at a very short deadline there, so thank you very much. When we think about the agency's greatest challenges, as markets expand, as technology changes dramatically, what are some of the big challenges that you see the agency facing in the near future, Andy?
Well, I'll tell you some of the way I think about that. I read not long ago that the average American receives 1,600 commercial messages a day, of which about 16 make any impression at all. That means that 99% of the commercial messages that we're on the receiving end make no impression whatsoever. And I shared that with our creative group, and it hangs back there on a bulletin board, because basically it's a creative challenge. It says that 99% of the advertising that's produced has no effect whatsoever. So just to kind of address that, breaking through the clutter, we live in a world where we're just overwhelmed with information, including advertising information. So the creative is a key to breaking through that. Now, strategic differentiation is a key also. It's like, what really differentiates you from your competitor? And, we're good at thinking about that. We like thinking about that. And that's important. A lot of people gloss over that. Research shows that 70% of people see no difference between one brand and another in the same field. So most brand advertising doesn't work.
Golly, Andy.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Take a deep breath, Greg.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Obviously, my business would be dramatically impacted if brand advertising was not having that kind of impact.
Right.
Wow. Well.
And actually, 50% of advertising has no impact on the brand whatsoever, according to research that I've read. So it's a very challenging field to actually be effective in.
Well, that's why we've been so excited all week to highlight this very creative idea within the agency to really fuel creative energies outside of normal work that folks are absolutely focused on. And the thrill for you as a partner and a willing recipient of letting the creative side of the agency flourish. How has this made you feel, Andy?
Actually, it makes me feel great because, you know, a lot of the work I do is internal, but a lot of it is also presenting creative to clients. And most of my experience presenting creative to clients is that clients really like the creative we present the first time that we present it. In my own vernacular, I say we have a very high kill ratio. It's just like almost everything we present is well accepted. And that is a pleasure, you know, to present creative that clients like. Not just for me, but for anybody on the account side of the business. And it's not always the case in agency-client dynamics. I think LHWH has a long-standing reputation for its creative product, and most of the people that work with us choose to do so because of our creative product. And talking about the arts, you know, some of our clients like Brooklyn Gardens and Carolina Opry, you know, are clients that are in the arts. You know, we've been working with both of them for quite a long time, and we enjoy working on supporting their creative product as well.
Speaking of creative product, we think about that psychedelic bus you were traveling in the 70s, Andy. Have you kept in contact with some of those friends you were traveling with back in the 70s?
Actually, all of them ended up living in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, come on.
They all live here now, you know. So that's one other thing about myself that I've noticed. I tend to have very long-term relationships. I've been married for almost 31 years. It'll be 31 years March 4th. And we have 2 daughters, and I have the same partner in my printing company, and the partners in LHWH have been together since the mid-'80s. A lot of people have worked here a long time. We've had a lot of clients a long time, so and I've had a lot of friends a long time. So that's, as I've gotten older, I've noticed that, you know, that seems to be part of my path through life, is to have long-term relationships. So all those people are back in Myrtle Beach.
We're visiting with the L of LHWH. The L not only stands for Lesnik, but it also stands for long-lasting friends. And Andy's made a lot of those in Myrtle Beach and a lot all over the country. Andy Lesnik, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank LHWH Advertising and PR for helping make the Silver Reed Gallery and today's Carolina People such a great success.